So today's update is going to be about the ceiling, and what's going on right now with the ceiling is that they're starting to put in the framework for the ceiling. And so I'm going to show you that. And the other thing is that my wife and my son and I are having a family feud, just a disagreement on what we should do with the fence. And I'm going to talk to you guys about that too in just a minute. And when I go up, I'm going to run up there in just a minute here. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about are going to be a question that I'm going to have for you regarding ventilation on the top of the roof, because that's a question that I have. And so I'll ask that to you guys here in just a minute too. So hang on for just a minute. I'm going to run up there and we'll have that discussion, okay? So as I was saying earlier, as you can see, they're starting to put in the framework for the ceiling. Now, for the ceiling panels, they're going to be using 6mm Hardy Flex. And it's going to be an ivory white, so it's going to have a really nice look to it. But just so you know, guys, that does not have much of an R rating at all. And so I'll be asking you a question about that in a little bit. But let me take you over here real quick to the fencing, because I want to talk to you a little bit about a little bit of a feud that we're having between me, my wife, and my son. So I've had it put in the comments a few times. That what I should do is just forget about the railing altogether and just add hollow block and just call it a day. And let me show you, it's not a bad idea. As a matter of fact, we're leaning in that direction now. The only problem is that between my wife and my son and I, they want to just put hollow block up to the top and then do the render. And I want to put another course of hollow block and then a tie beam in. So, and I'll show you a picture of what it would look like in the end right here. Now, aesthetically, the kids say, and my wife say, that it would look better if it had the railing or if it doesn't have a tie beam on it. I'm not sure if that's true, because I don't think it actually would look bad with a tie beam. And I think that structurally it would be better for this fence if we put a tie beam on the top of it. So that question is going to be hanging out there for a little while, because we're not sure which way we're going to go. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So go ahead and put them in the comments. I'm ready to hear whatever you've got to say. Now the other thing is, here in the front, you see, now right here where you can see the railings, and you can see that the columns still have a ways to go. That's going to be 4 feet from the bottom of this hollow block. It's going to be 4 feet up. And so we are going to put railings there. And we also are going to obviously put a tubed railing gate. And that gate is going to be a rolling gate. So I do know that we're going to go in that direction with the gate. But when I look at that's going on with, so that was my wife. She just called because we have somebody coming out to give us a bid on the gate and how we're going to do that. And so the gate here, show you the gate, and then the railings that are going to go just in the front. But then back to what's going on inside the build. The other question that I kind of have to throw out at you guys is, we've talked about that the eaves are in, the spandrel eaves are in, and they also did some of the framework for the ceiling is going in right now. But the question I'm going to have is going to be about the ventilation, because everything's so short. Because as you know, if if you're from the United States, the roofs are done very differently here. In the United States, they're going to have the insulation in between the studs, and that insulation is going to have an R rating. Now the compliance is going to be right around 38 to 49, and for anything that's a little more high efficient, it's going to be from 49 to 60. And then they just close in the eaves, and then they put roof vents so that any other hot air will just escape through the roof. But in the Philippines, it's done differently. So what you're going to have is you have the mesh, then you have the foil, and then you have the long span that covers it. And then the ceiling, as you saw, it comes down to about midway of the tie beam. And then they're going to be using the HardyFlex panels. And so you'll see there's a gap in between them. And that gap is what adds extra R rating to the build. So the question is this right up here, as you can see, there's a gap on the ridge edge up on the top. Does that serve equivalent to the ventilation that you might put through the roof? So that's a big question that I have, and I'm not sure what the answer is to that. The architectural plans, it doesn't show any vents going through the roof. So my conversation, I haven't had a chance to talk to the engineer yet, but I'm going to have that conversation with him. But if you guys have any comments on that, go ahead and put that go ahead, any thoughts on that, go ahead and put that in the comments, because I'm just not sure how this is done here in the Philippines. But it seems to me that that gap on the roof edge, the ridge edge, I mean, should suffice as an equivalent for ventilation that would go through the roof. I also want to show you real quick here, guys, how they're using rebar on the jambs above as a header and along the sides of the jamb as well. Now this serves as the purpose of the lintels that everybody keeps talking about. And I just wanted to kind of put this to rest, because I've heard so many comments about, oh, you have to have lintels. That's the only way this can be structurally sound. And I'm just going to just argue the point that this also is structurally sound. We have a tie beam on the top. There's a tie beam on the foundation. There is rebar going across the jambs and on the sides of the jambs, and that is sufficient. Okay, guys, just to wrap this up real quick, and I probably have to say this every time that I do a video, because I get a lot of new subscribers and a lot of new viewers, and it's really important for me to get across this fact that because I hear this in the comments all the time, you should be there all day long. I would be there all day long. I would watch these people because they don't know what they're doing. They always do everything wrong. And I'm trying to tell you guys that that's not true. Yes, you're going to have problems sometimes. Yes, you could end up with the wrong contractor, like I did with my fence. But I didn't get the wrong contractor for my house. And my point is, I'm 67 years old, and I didn't come here to live on site and to work in the hot sun and to be a plumber, be an engineer, to be an electrician, to be a carpenter, to be a bricklayer. I didn't come here to do that. If you guys are there, you want to do that, you're young enough, you want to do that, by all means, my hat is off to you for being able to do that. But there are a lot of people, a lot of guys who would like to come here and build a home with their Filipina, and they're not going to be physically capable or even want to. They're going to be in their late 60s, they're in their early 70s, and they're not going to want to be outdoors all day in the hot sun trying to build a house. And so my point is that yes, you can do it. You have to find the right people, and sometimes you might not. But the point is that you do have to come to the site. You do have to look at things. You do have to question things. And then guys, sometimes you have to fix things. That's the nature of it. And I also hear in the comments how, this is how we do it in Australia, this is how we do it in Canada, this is how we do it. Guys, this isn't Canada, this is the Philippines. And I have never been anywhere. I've been in the United States, I've worked with home builds in the United States, and there was always problems. The riser heights weren't correct, they couldn't get the right distance so they could put a 3-foot landing to the street. There's always some kind of a problem that the contractors do. And so many times in the United States, the contractor would leave the work to the subcontractor. The subcontractor didn't have the knowledge that the contractor did, and so he did a substandard job. You'd go and you inspect it and go, hey, that you have to have a 3-foot landing by code, and it's only 2 foot. You can't do that. And so, you know, it's just the way it is. And so for anyone to say that, you know, you've got to live on site, or, you know, if you can do that, by all means. Another thing is I hear about is that the cost. Guys, for $80,000, I have a 2-bedroom house with a pool, you know, and you know what? I think that's a good price. And maybe you don't. Maybe you only have $20,000 or $40,000 to spend on a home. And if that's the case, you're probably better off doing it yourself, because you couldn't afford to hire a contractor, or I mean an engineer and the whole crew. Or all you can do is hire locals, and you have to watch over everything that they do. But you better have the knowledge, and not just Western knowledge. You better have some knowledge about how things are built in Southeast Asia. Anyway, guys, that's my video for today, and we'll catch you on the next one, okay? Bye-bye.